in terms of our mutual defense. Escort of one vessel to the other is an entirely reasonable option within our mutual defense treaty among this close alliance between the two of us.
Oparo was speaking to reporters at a military forum organized by the Indo-Pacific Command. His remarks are likely to annoy China. Beijing's claim over nearly all of the South China Sea has angered neighboring countries whose exclusive economic zones are affected. China has intensified aggressive action in the area despite a 2016 international ruling rejecting these claims. The U.S. has warned it is obligated to defend the Philippines if its military attacked in the region, raising concerns of a potential conflict.
Pakistan's prime minister says recent attacks by separatist militants are aimed at stopping the country's cooperation with China. The assaults began on Sunday in the country's Balochistan province, killing more than 70. The militants want the resource-rich province to secede. Major China-led projects such as a port and a gold and copper mine are located there. The projects are part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. There are reportedly development commitments worth $65 billion. Pakistan has not been able to fully build the infrastructure needed to tap mineral resources in poverty-stricken Balochistan that has sought China's help in developing the province. A former Verizon employee has pleaded guilty to collecting intelligence for the Chinese regime last Friday. Among his targets, Verizon, India's second-largest IT company, and practitioners of Falun Gong.
The engineer is called Li Ping, a U.S. citizen originally from China. Court documents show he talked about hacking tactics with a Chinese intelligence officer. Li also provided him with cyber training materials from his current employer, Infosys. It's the second-largest IT company in India. In 2015, Li gave the officer information on Verizon's China branch offices. Li's main assignment was to collect information on practitioners of Falun Gong, a spiritual meditation practice based on the principles of truth, compassion, and tolerance. On top of abducting millions of practitioners and torturing them in jail in China, the regime also keeps tabs on adherents living overseas. In 2012, Li was asked to collect information on lawsuits that Falun Gong practitioners plan to bring against Chinese regime officials. His handler also wanted him to pay attention to people who work at the CIA or FBI. In 2013, Li sent the officer public information of two Israeli authors who wrote books about Falun Gong. A year later, the officer asked him to find out more information about a Falun Gong practitioner after he protested in front of a Chinese consulate in California. The officer gave Li the practitioner's California home address, phone number, and the brand and model of his car.
Li Ping told the Epoch Times that he doesn't regret his actions. His lawyer said he provided information to childhood friends who became employees for the Chinese regime. Li faces up to 5 years in prison, up to 3 years of supervised release, and a maximum fine of $250,000. The sentencing hearing is scheduled to be held in 2 months.
U.S. tech giants are pulling back from China, and the latest round has IBM joining the trend. The company is a leader in artificial intelligence and announced plans Monday to close its China research and development operation. The decision will impact over 1,000 jobs. Take a look. The U.S. tech company has faced challenges growing in the Chinese market and has seen a dip in demand for its hardware. Now, according to reports, IBM's market share in China has fallen in recent years. This is due to a push to support more domestic brands. IBM reported that its revenue dropped nearly 20% last year. Also in the report, an IBM executive told employees that R&D functions will move to other overseas facilities. And here's a statement. A spokesperson said that these changes would not impact its ability to support clients in the Greater China region. Meanwhile, a U.S. soldier who fled to North Korea in 2023 plans to plead guilty to desertion and 4 other charges, including assaulting an officer. The lawyer for Travis King confirmed yesterday that 9 other charges, including possession of child sexual images, will be dropped. King's hearing is set for September 20th in Texas. The Army private fled across the North Korean border after being released from the South Korean prison. He was held there for nearly 2 months before being expelled. The potential sentence for desertion is yet to be disclosed.
Still to come, 15 years in the making, a new film about former President Ronald Reagan. The film crew talks about why it's still relevant today.
Dogs are riding the waves and preparing for an annual California surfing event in September. We'll return with that and more after this break.
Last couple of years confronted by inflation, a wonky post-pandemic job market, and a consumer price index that's increased more than 3% over the past year. But our government provides free gift cards, phones, and free transportation to illegal immigrants who've just crossed the border. And never fear, progressive cities like New York, where migrants are soon released after being caught on video attacking police, just introduced a preloaded debit card program providing truckloads of $10,000 debit cards for migrants with no ID checks, no restrictions, and no fraud control. This does raise a few questions about the potential for abuse and misuse of taxpayer funds, especially when New Yorkers are some of the most heavily taxed people on the planet. A recent audit by the New York Comptroller's Office uncovered that New York taxpayers have been overcharged millions of dollars due to non-competitive contracts for services for these illegal immigrants, which has resulted in price gouging. It's been called a, quote, open-ended, multi-billion-dollar Bermuda Triangle of disappearing untraceable cash. What are the long-term implications of such policies? How do they impact those who seek better lives here, but who follow a path to legally live, work, and come here? And how will these policies impact current residents? Most of the immigrants crossing won't have the documentation to work above board, and we can assume most will be beholden to one cartel or another. No doubt many will be forced into sex and drug trafficking. Laken Riley was a 22-year-old nursing student at the University of Georgia. Her suspected attacker and murderer, Jose Antonio Ibarra, is an illegal immigrant who entered the U.S. in 2022, was arrested in New York for injuring a child, as well as a motor violation. But, due to New York's sanctuary city laws, was freed before ICE could request custody of him. He then fled to Georgia, where his brother had forged documents which enabled him to wash dishes at UGA, in between being arrested numerous times over the past year, of course. 3 days later, the White House issued a statement saying, quote, people should be held accountable. Oh, we agree, Joe. Who do you think that should be? Exactly. In Maryland, another illegal immigrant who'd been arrested and released multiple times over the past year has been arrested again over the murder of a 2-year-old. The border crisis and the government's handling of it have created a tenuous situation. Has control of the southern border been ceded to the cartels? The fact that many believe so highlights the need for a much more transparent, secure, and law-abiding immigration system in the United States. When people are being violently manipulated, are we truly protecting the well-being of anyone? It's time for stronger leadership and a set of solutions that benefits all parties involved. Are you a citizen? Could you use $10,000? Let us know.
Reagan is one of the most famous people recognizable in the world. But that fear is usually a sign that I should do that because it takes me out of my comfort zone. And, that's what God does too, you know.
The new film shows the journey of Reagan's humble beginnings and becoming the 40th U.S. president.
I think that we all have a purpose in life, that whatever you are, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, that there's something you're supposed to do before you leave the planet. And it's hard to find that. In Reagan's case, he doesn't find it until he's 69 years old. So that gives the rest of us hope that we can find it at some point in our lives, the thing that you were put here to do, as his mother says.
What would you say is the issue of our time? No question about it. Communism and the Soviet Union. Get in the game.
Screenwriter Howard Klausner discussed the challenges of capturing Reagan's persona.
And it was a band of brothers. We all had the things we wanted. My original draft was 212 pages. Can't do that in a feature film. So it's been hard to choose. Well, we can't do that, but let's try this. So it's been a labor of love, for sure.
I was working with a producer about 15 years ago doing another movie, and he said, I'm going to make the Reagan movie, and I want you to play Nellie. We share the same faith, etc. And I was honored to do it. It took 15 years to get there. But Nellie had an enormous influence on Ronald Reagan. They were very close.
Senator Marsha Blackburn and actor Nick Searcy talked about the movie's timing.
So many people are talking about how do we preserve our freedoms and liberties? How do we make certain that people appreciate that this is the land of opportunity and preserving access to that American dream? And I'm like a lot of moms and grandmoms. I want my kids and grandkids to dream those big dreams. And it's up to us to give them the opportunity to make them come true.
I think the parallels between what Reagan fought for in the 80s and the struggles he went through are very similar to what's happening now. And I think it's still the battle against communism. It's still the same things that Reagan fought. We're still fighting that battle today. So I think this movie's coming out at the perfect time.
There's nothing a retired governor can do about the Soviets, but a president, now he can do a thing or two.
Reagan is hitting theaters on Friday.
Moving on to Philadelphia, a pack of four-legged therapists who help calm travelers got a break of their own yesterday. They were celebrated at the airport where they work.
So, Steph, actually at the event at Philadelphia International Airport, it marked 5 years since the members of the Wagging Tails Brigade.
What a name.
Yeah, exactly. That's when they began working there as therapy dogs. Take a look at the story.
The Wagging Tails Brigade is a group of friendly dogs roaming the airport with their handlers. Their mission is providing guests with a calming environment inside the potentially stressful hallways of Philadelphia International Airport.
It's a program of certified therapy dog animals and their owners. They come to the airport, they volunteer their time to come to the airport solely to ensure that our passengers and guests are having a great time.
But today, the calming canines are getting a break and a special celebration. Several of them were presented with birthday presents and a customized cake, while passerby were invited to eat cupcakes and sign an oversized birthday card.
Well, it's a great day today at the Philadelphia International Airport because we're celebrating the 5th anniversary of the Wagging Tails Brigade.
This couple, on their way to their honeymoon, turned to pet Bella while trying to stay in a positive frame of mind amid a flight delay.
This is happy. It reminds us of our dog and back at home and we miss him. We're actually going on our honeymoon, so it's great to see all this out here. And our flight is late, so we got a little stressed. So this just really made our flight really good. Yeah.
Back in June, Nancy Middleman recalls she was at the airport with her German Shepherd Tariq while bad weather snarled air traffic. The two of them spent several hours entertaining stranded children and their parents.
I had an entire crowd around me. There must have been 10 kids sitting around him, and they were talking to each other. And the beauty of it was before that, there were a lot of stressed out parents and a lot of unhappy children. And after sitting down next to other children, they started talking to each other.
Members of the brigade and their human handlers are at the airport for at least 2 hours a week, impressing people with their tricks and doing what they can to raise the spirits of travel-weary passengers. Volunteers coordinate their time. They aim to have at least one member of the brigade there to greet travelers, especially on days with significant delays or disruptions. Their work is done in partnership with the Alliance of Therapy Dogs.
Next